As a Stage 1, unevolved Pokémon from the original Generation 1 roster, Magnemite appears to be a machine designed with terrible baseline RPG attributes. Looking at this radar chart, Magnemite's specific statistical flaws are glaring. It has a microscopic 25 base HP, sluggish speed, and severe elemental vulnerabilities to ground, fire, and fighting-type attacks. Yet a pristine PSA 10 graded Holon's Magnemite Delta species trading card commands a price tag of nearly $500 in the real-world collector's market. That high value extends into modern spin-offs. In Pokémon Pokopia, the developers lock Magnemite entirely behind the long post-game credits, requiring players to gather jumbled cords and metal drums to build a factory storage habitat just to encounter one. And in the fast-paced competitive Little Cup format, this basic machine has remained a viable, dominant force across every single generation of play. To understand how a Pokémon with some of the worst stats in history routinely outperforms heavyweights, we have to look past the numbers and reverse engineer its highly specialized mechanical components. The turning point for this machine's chassis arrived in Generation 2. Magnemite became the first Pokémon in the franchise to have its typing changed, gaining the newly introduced Steel type. This type matchup matrix shows exactly what that dual electric-steel typing provided. It granted a massive suite of defensive resistances, allowing Magnemite to safely absorb attacks that would easily destroy its teammates. That specific chassis allowed it to dominate the Generation 2 never-used tier. It easily switched into top-tier threats like Xatu and Wigglytuff, tanked their hits, and fired off paralyzing thunder attacks in return. But defense is only half the equation. The motor driving this machine's utility is its first specialized signature ability, Magnet Pull. Magnet Pull subverts the standard rules of turn-based combat. It physically traps opposing steel types on the field, entirely preventing the opponent from switching out or escaping the battle. Players used this ability to hunt down Ferroseed, one of the metagame's most frustrating defensive walls, trapping it and destroying it with the move Hidden Power Fire. Magnemite functioned as a strategic enabler. By removing a single defensive anchor, it cleared a path for its teammates to sweep the remaining team. By Generation 6, new mechanics allowed Magnemite to evolve from a simple trapper into a self-sustaining defensive engine. This flowchart details the engine's synergy. A lethal hit triggers the Sturdy ability, leaving Magnemite at exactly 1 HP. This immediately activates its held berry juice, restoring health to full. The critical third component is Recycle, retrieving the consumed berry to reset the survival loop indefinitely. This infinite loop created intense psychological warfare in tournament play, particularly against Magnemite's greatest offensive counter, Diglett. Combat became a prediction minefield. Magnemite users would click the move Endure to safely trigger their berry juice loop, while Diglett users attempted to predict that exact move by using Substitute instead of attacking. Ironically, Magnemite's biggest statistical flaw, its incredibly low base HP, was the secret to making this strategy work. A tiny health pool meant the flat healing of a single berry juice easily restored it to 100% capacity. By combining Sturdy and Recycle, players successfully weaponized Magnemite's frailty, turning a fragile machine into a psychological nightmare that forced opponents to second-guess every attack. Generation 8 delivered systemic shocks to the machine. The developers removed the move Hidden Power from the game's core code, stripping away Magnemite's primary method for destroying the Pokémon it trapped. Combined with an environmental shift favoring an abundance of ground-type Pokémon, this nerf threatened to finally render Magnemite obsolete. It adapted to this hostile new environment using the newly introduced Steel Beam attack, a massively destructive option punishing anything trying to switch in safely. Its physical hardware upgrades modernized as well. Players bypassed the need to level it up in a highly specific localized magnetic field, evolving it cleanly via a standard Thunderstone instead. A basic 25 HP robot from 1996 continues to dictate modern franchise ecosystems, from high-tier competitive tournaments to endgame base building in modern spin-offs. While power creep often sidelines monsters with higher base stats, Magnemite suggests that specialized mechanical utility has a much longer shelf life.